صدق الله مولانا العظيم وبلغ رسوله المصطفى الكريم صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless and reward in the most generous way our dear Shaykh Abdul Karim, for indeed in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ennobled him and enabled him to read his word subhanahu wa ta'ala and the meanings his word contained, to read that in ways that do indeed move and stir the noblest emotions in the hearts, especially of those who seek, and in general in the hearts that are sound, and even the hearts that are not sound. It is a means for them, inshallah ta'ala, to be moved and to be reformed. May Allah Azza wa Jal continue to bless him. May Allah Azza wa Jal beautify his heart and his soul as he subhanahu wa ta'ala made him a means to express his divine words in beautiful human voice. Of what was recited from Surah Al-Anbiya, towards the end of it, therefore, are accounts of certain Anbiya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, plural of Nabi, loosely translated as prophet. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala draws our attention to moments, if not periods, of their lives to help us in our own quest in this world, in this life, of living a life that is consistent with what He loves subhanahu wa ta'ala, living a life that is noble, living a life that is honorable, living a life that is rich in the divine sense of richness, and by that as well, inshallah ta'ala, that our ultimate abode is Jannah and not Jahannam. As the end of that story, as you all heard, after Allah Azza wa Jal mentions to us the Anbiya, and that we have them as our models, they are a means for us to lead us to happiness in this dunya and to Jannah, the ultimate happiness in Akhirah, and to be secure in this dunya from the means of miserable life. A miserable life is a life distant in our awareness, distant from Allah Azza wa Jal, and a miserable life in Akhirah. So when He mentions them, He mentions the outcome, as you heard in such very powerful divine words, especially as we cited so beautifully, that Allah Azza wa Jal leads us, tells us that they are the means to prevent us from, wal-'iyadhu billah, ending up miserable ashqiya in this world and in the hereafter. And of that which He mentioned, I'm going to share with you in a few moments one or two episodes of those Anbiya that were mentioned, of whom Sayyiduna Ayyub, and that's how the recitation of Hafidahullah Shaykh Abdul Karim began. وَأَيُّوبَ إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ أَنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الضُّرُّ وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الراحمين. Sayyiduna Ayyub alayhi salatullahi wa salamuhu ala nabiyyina ashrafu salati wa akmalu salam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tried him, and he was not any person. He was a devout human being, to the divine, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And before that, as the commentators tell us, and the ulama of the tafsir and of the seer tell us from the reports they have, that before this trial that Allah Azza wa Jal subjected him to, he was very well to do in terms of life in general, in halal, beautiful ways. He was well and had a lot and plenty in terms of al-mal wal-walad wa-al-jasad, as they say. He was well to do. Allah Azza wa Jal gave him, subhanahu wa ta'ala, very noble givings in terms of wealth. He was very wealthy, and he gave him a lot of offspring and children and resources, human resources, and he was very wealthy with that. And with all of that, he had also a beautiful body and a strong body and a healthy body. And that's how he lived. And lo and behold, almost as they say, suddenly, all of that was gone. Allah Azza wa Jal, of course, nothing occurs in reality without the will and the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we human beings, we see only, especially if we are disconnected in our awareness from Allah Azza wa Jal, we see only the apparent external means to something. And we see the logic of it, or the rationale of it, or the lack of logic, or the lack of rationale of it. We don't see, most of us, we don't see the hidden dimension of that, the hidden divine dimension of that, behind the apparent means and causes and resources. So when he had plenty, alayhi salatullahi wa salam wa Sayyiduna Ayyub, and then he lost everything, of course, in our observation there were what you may call sunan kawniyya, sunan khalqiyya. There were laws of Allah in the social realm, in the psychological realm, in the economic realm, and so on, which when we observe, we say, this was what happened, and that's what happened, and that's why he lost what he lost. But Allah does not tell us that, because that's not relevant. That's our superficial look at things, and that's the materialistic look at things. But what happens, happens with His permission and His will, no matter what the causes are, and the means are, and the rationale is. So Sayyiduna Ayyub loses everything. No children, dead, except his wife. Wealth all gone. And used to be a generous man, one who loved Allah, one who gave, one who shared, one who was benevolent, one who was not greedy, and worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then everything is gone. And on top all of that, wealth is gone, power is gone, children are gone. And then Allah Azza wa Jal now, as we say, tests him, and subjects his body to illnesses. To the extent that, in accordance to the commentators and the texts available, nothing of his jasad was left untouched with illness except two things: his heart and his tongue. His heart and his tongue. And in accordance to some texts, this, when it started, it lasted 18 uninterrupted consecutive years. SubhanAllah. And during those years, little by little, because he lost everything and no children, and not even a body that people even could not after a time stand to be in front of him, and they would isolate him, except his wife, who kept always. Alhamdulillah, a wife who was really loyal and a beautiful human being, which is not always the case. And when that all had occurred to him, his reaction in accordance to the text, and you find this in the commentaries and the tafasir, like Ibn Kathir and others before, and At-Tabari and Ibn Abi Hatim and so on. He said, alayhi salatullahi wa salamu, he said, Ya Rabbi, how much you have been good to me. أحسنت إلي يا ربي. This is after what has happened. You have been so benevolent and so good to me, O my Lord. Some accounts it is said when that had happened to him, he was like 70 years of age. He was not even young to be strong and to withstand all of that load. Some texts say he was 70 years of age. He said, Ya Allah, you gave me during these 70 years so much. You gave me wealth. You gave me health. You gave me children. Alhamdulillah, you have been so good to me. And he said, in accordance to this text, and Ibn Kathir mentioned that and others, he said, and indeed, he said, all of that which you gave me, halal and all beautiful and tayyib, he says, it left no part of my heart untouched. قد أحسنت إلي يا ربي بالمال والولد والجسد حتى سكن ذلك في قلبي أو معنى ما قال. In other words, until all of that has entered my heart in a legitimate way, not in a khabith way, in a legitimate way. And then now, Ya Rabbi, at this age, you're taking all away from me to liberate my qalb. لتفرغ قلبي من كل ذلك. That you liberate my heart from all of that, so that my heart is yours and yours alone. He says, Alhamdulillah Ya Rabbi for this. لأنه لما بقي له قلبه ولسانه كما ذكر أهل التفسير أحسن ذكر الله. Indeed, his remembrance and dhikr of Allah was even more beautiful. And this is part of his dhikr, this meaning that were mentioned. Allahumma laka alhamdu ya Rab for all of this. And if shaitan knows what you have given me, he would be so belittled. And he continued in that hal. And he continued in that hal. Look at this. What Allah Azza wa Jalla, Allah gave him. And he said in one text also, Ya Allah, you gave me for 70 years. And when they used to tell him, why don't you ask your God to liberate you from this, to heal you from this? When it's like a year or 2 or 3, he says, Allah gave me 70 years of sahha, of kada. Why should I not be accepting and radi and not only patient for a few years or for another 70 years? Allah Azza wa Jalla. Now, this is what Ayyub alayhi salam was. And Allah mentions him. That's why يضرب به المثل في الصبر. That's why he became the ultimate model and example and parable in patient perseverance and perseverant patience in sabr. This is the quality of that abd. The quality of that abd. That's who he was. And he was glad that all of that happened, and that Allah left for him his heart and his tongue by which he will always be in dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal, qalban wa lisanan. Though people shunned him away, even his family, even his friends. And finally one day, he turns to Allah Azza wa Jal, and the ulama mention some of the reasons for that. That ultimately he turns to Allah, and he says, after long years of uninterrupted trials in this way, day and night, and on top of that, people telling him, you deserve this, you must have done something terrible, you must have been looking, you must have been a person who showed good things, but inside you were terrible, otherwise God would not subject you to this. He says, Allah knows. Allah knows. And his wife, the poor woman, still very loyal, would do her best to work, to feed him, to take care of him. Incredible things she did, some of which would be construed as not full obedience to Allah, such as cutting her hair, and all her hair, and she would sell it. In those days, it had a value, so she got some money to feed her husband, to take care of him, and things like that. Until he turns to Allah Azza wa Jalla and says, and how does he put it? Not like most of us, Ya Rabbi, I don't deserve this. Ya Rabbi, for a week sometimes, or one day, or 3 days, or 1 hour, or 15 minutes. What did I do, Ya Rabbi? I didn't do anything. Why me? La ilaha illallah. He says, with what he was subjected to, وَأَيُّوبَ إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ وَرَبِّي إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ أَنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الضُّرُّ وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. This is very famous amongst the commentators. He said this in this beautiful adab with Allah Azza wa Jalla in his dua under those circumstances, with a humble, low voice, متضرعا معترفا مقرا موحدا منيبا متوكلا لا مدعيا. He turns to Allah and says, مسني الضر, harm touched me, harm touched me. He didn't say you subjected me to disease. Allah did. But he doesn't say, no, Allah made me sick. That's still polite, but look at this super adab. He didn't attribute what he has to Allah, but in haqiqah, it is Allah Azza wa Jal. But he says, pain or harm or illness touched me. And he didn't say, touched me. Imagine, took everything. He says, it touched me. And you are وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. Allahu Akbar. And you are the most loving, mercifully loving of those who are mercifully loving. Hakala. This was his dua. And Allah Azza wa Jal tells us that he answered his pleas. He heard his pleas and he answered his dua right away, as Allah willed, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah telling you and me. And he tells us about the stories of others, such as Sayyiduna Yunus Dhunnun. Again, how Allah Azza wa Jal also tried him and tested him, and he was swallowed by the whale in the belly of the whale, in the darkness of the belly of the whale. And Allah kept him alive, and Allah saved him. And inside the belly of the whale, what was he doing, Sayyidina Yunus? That which he used to do always. What was it? The dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal. The light in the midst of darkness, dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal. Subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. Subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. La ilaha illa anta subhanak inni kuntu min al-zalimin. In that calamity, again, he does not say, Ya Allah, why did you do this to me? I am your prophet, I am your messenger, why? La ilaha illallah. He says, La ilaha illa ant. Tawheed. Subhanak. Glorification. Inni kuntu min al-zalimin. Verily, I have been one who was a transgressor. Not I didn't do anything to deserve this. And who was he? A Nabi. Inni kuntu min al-zalimin. فاستجبنا له ونجيناه من الغم وكذلك ننجي المؤمنين. And Allah says, and so we saved him, and so we shall save those who have Iman. And so we shall say, and so we shall save those who have Iman. In other words, this is for you and for me. We walk in their footsteps, and Allah is. But as we must notice, my dear brothers and sisters, look how patient they were. Patience means I'm subjected to loads of hardships, and I take the way to Allah Azza wa Jal of dhikr and of dua, but I don't hasten the results. I don't hasten and change my approach. For many of us, let's say we are in dua, but been doing it for a month, been doing it for 6 months, I don't see any response. Maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should give up this thing and I should work hard. And then we try to intellectualize that and to rationalize that in our own ways, and we give up dua and we give up dhikr. And that simply shows how much less of patience and less of profound iman we have. But Ayyub alayhi salam, Dhunnun alayhi salam, before that Sulaiman, Dawood alayhi salam, after that Zakaria alayhi salam, Yahya alayhi salam, Maryam alayhi salam, those practiced what they practiced with perseverant patience. They didn't give up immediately. They were connected to Allah Azza wa Jal. وَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا وَمَنْ صَبَرَ ظَفَرَ. And that's what Allah is teaching us. وَكَذَلِكَ نُنْجِي الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. If I and you hold fast to La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, in practice, patiently, perseverantly, in dua, in dhikr, in forgiveness, in kindness, in not reciprocating evil with evil, and being aware of Allah Azza wa Jal in our qulub. And Ayyub alayhi salam, in the stories about him, he had so many suggestions throughout the years and offers to do something about this and to try this and to try that, and things that are dubious or things that are improper or things that look really fine, that would disengage him from his reliance on Allah Azza wa Jal, and he kept refusing all of that. That's why everybody left him, but he was left with Allah Azza wa Jal. Patience in our salah, my dear brothers and sisters. Perform salah, be patient in your salah. We're not Ayyub. Allah will not try us like Ayyub alayhi salam, because Allah tells us that He will try us depending on the solidity of our iman. No one is Ayyub alayhi salam. He will not. But we should talk about salah. How are we in our salah? How patient are we in our salah? How consistent are we in our salah? Some of us come to salah, and even in salah we're so impatient and in a hurry to leave. After I say Assalamu alaikum, trak. leave, in a hurry to leave. People, educated, teachers, scholars, lay, we don't have patience of 8 minutes or 10 minutes to be with Allah and in dhikr with Allah and in dua with Allah. And if we have a headache, oh, the world crumbles. And if we don't have, if we take Tylenol, it doesn't work, take Motrin. Motrin doesn't work, take what's the other one? No, Advil is not, that's ibuprofen. Motrin is stronger. Morphine. We can't stand it. If we have a problem, social problem, family problem, we're so restless and so agitated. Now. Even the way we talk to one another is so in a hurry, impatient. La ilaha illallah. That's not the way. Allah mentions them to us for us to learn lessons. And He tells us, walk in their footsteps and I will give you what I gave them. And the outcome is Jannah. In dunya, in our hearts, and in akhirah, in the ultimate sense of Jannah, my dear sisters and brothers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all and guard you all, protect you all, and help us all, inshaAllah ta'ala, walk the path of the Anbiya, Asfiya. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us all change our hearts and in our attitudes and in our words and in our deeds. May we, as you all know, Hafizakum Allah, may Allah protect you all, as you are subjected to the challenges and the turmoils in the world nowadays, locally and worldwide and everywhere. The challenges do exist. And in that, people are very impatient, very unspiritual, very agitated, very expedient, want things to be done quickly and now. And very materialistic solutions, administrative solutions, kaza. And we do all of these things stripped from the spirit of Ayyub, stripped from the spirit of Yunus, stripped from the spirit of Maryam alayhi salam, stripped from the spirit of Zakaria, all of whom are represented in the spirit of Sayyiduna Mawlana Muhammadun sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Stripped from that, and so there is no barakah, and so there is no blessedness in what we do, and the fruits produced are not blessed. May Allah Azza wa Jal guard your hearts and guard us. May Allah help us. May Allah help us. May Allah help us live what we have to live, and our children and our loved ones, in a way that is always consistent with our awareness of Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that He takes us in that hal. إن الذين سبقت لهم منا الحسنى أولئك عنها مبعدون لا يسمعون حسيسها وهم فيما اشتهت أنفسهم خالدون لا يحزنهم الفزع الأكبر وتتلقاهم الملائكة هذا يومكم الذي كنتم توعدون. اللهم اجعلنا منهم, of those whom the angels, when they are leaving this world, when we are leaving this world, when we are dying, the angels come to receive them and they tell them, this is your day. اللهم اجعلنا منهم, اللهم اجعلنا منهم. وجزاكم الله تعالى خيرا, وجزاك الله خيرا جزيلا سيدي أكرمك الله. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى العفو والعافية. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. طولت الناس القراءة لما حبست أنا مش اسمعوا قصة